Our world is filled with strange and mysterious places, many of which were discovered centuries ago, yet their true nature remains unknown. One such enigmatic location is Easter Island, a small island located approximately 3,600 kilometers off the coast of Chile in the Pacific Ocean. It is the only island found thousands of kilometers away from any mainland in this vast ocean. Easter Island is so isolated that its nearest neighbor, Pitcairn Island, is 2,075 kilometers away, and even that island is uninhabited. The closest inhabited island is Mangareva Island, home to around 500 people, and it lies about 2,600 kilometers from Easter Island. Despite its remoteness, Easter Island is a part of Chilean territory, but Chile's coastline is still 3,512 kilometers away. In modern times, reaching Easter Island is only possible by airplane. The journey from Chile to Easter Island takes about 5 hours by air. However, what makes this island truly fascinating is not just its isolation in the vast Pacific Ocean, but the colossal statues found here, known as Moai. These statues have made Easter Island famous worldwide and continue to intrigue researchers and visitors alike. This island was discovered in 1722, nearly 300 years ago, when a European explorer, Jacob Roggeveen, accidentally landed here after losing his way in the ocean. Upon arriving, he saw massive stone statues on the island. These statues, carved skillfully from stone, had their backs facing the sea and their faces turned toward the island, resembling giant deities. Jacob was astonished by the sight and began exploring the island further out of curiosity. He soon realized that the island wasn't just home to a few statues. It was filled with hundreds of them. Some were standing while others had fallen to the ground. The day Jacob discovered the island happened to be Easter Sunday, a Christian holiday. Thus, he named it Easter Island. At that time, the island was sparsely populated by a few inhabitants who called it Rapa Nui. However, even the locals had no idea who created these statues, when they were made, or why. This mystery captured the interest of many, and since that day, archaeologists and researchers have continued to visit Easter Island, attempting to uncover its secrets. While some came merely to marvel at its wonders, others dedicated themselves to uncovering the mysteries hidden behind these enigmatic statues. Over the past 300 years, through relentless research and efforts, experts have gathered significant evidence. Based on their findings, it would not be an exaggeration to say that we are now closer than ever to solving the mystery of this fascinating island. There are nearly 1,000 statues on Easter Island, known as Moai. Some of these statues have eyes, while many others were created without them. The Moai statues are distinguished by their long noses, flat foreheads, and elongated faces, giving them a unique and distinct appearance. According to experts, these statues were created around the 13th century, about 700 years ago. Many of these statues are aligned in straight rows along the island's borders, while others only show the faces that have fallen to the ground. However, in 2012, an excavation revealed a surprising truth that left experts astonished. It was discovered that the heads visible on the ground were not just the faces. They were part of much larger statues, and their bodies were buried under the earth. The tallest Moai statue stands at a remarkable height of 33 feet, about 10 meters, and weighs approximately 90,000 kilograms, making it extremely difficult to move or even tilt. Another fascinating discovery occurred when the research team uncovered an incomplete statue. According to expert calculations, this statue's full height would have been around 70 feet, and its weight was estimated to be close to 300 tons. This astonishing find deepened the mystery surrounding the Moai and further highlighted the incredible effort and skill that went into creating these monumental statues. Carving such massive statues out of stone and then transporting them across the island to different locations seems like an impossible task. one that seems beyond the capabilities of the people of that time. For many years, it was even believed that this feat might have been accomplished by aliens. However, modern research has disproven this theory, as scientists have uncovered substantial evidence proving that the Moai statues were created using local volcanic rocks on the island itself. The statues were carved from a type of volcanic tuff stone, which could be found on Easter Island. To understand how these statues were made, scientists conducted an experiment where they attempted to carve just the eyes of a statue out of stone. It took them 3 full days to accomplish this task, using tools that were historically used by the island's inhabitants. Based on this experiment, researchers concluded that creating a full-size statue would likely have required a team of at least 12 workers, working for an entire year to complete one statue. When looking at the incomplete statues scattered around the island, experts believe that the statues were carved from large stones that were already positioned where they were found. After the upper portion of the statue was completed, it was separated from the stone and moved to its final location. The challenge, however, wasn't just carving the statues, it was transporting these massive structures across the island. This raised the question: how were these statues transported so far across the island, especially considering the distance between the volcano site where the statues were carved and other locations on Easter Island? This question continues to intrigue researchers, and while several theories exist, the exact method of transportation remains one of the most fascinating mysteries of Easter Island. Indeed, even in modern times, without machinery, the task of creating and transporting such large statues would seem nearly impossible. To understand how the people of Easter Island might have achieved this, experts examined many of the fallen statues along the island's pathways. They discovered a common pattern. Statues that had fallen on slopes were face down, while those that had fallen on flat ground were on their backs. This observation led to the conclusion that the statues were likely standing during transportation, and it was only during the shifting process that they toppled and broke. Experts believe that the statues were secured with ropes to maintain balance while being moved. The statues were gradually shifted across the island, with careful adjustments made along the way. To test this theory, scientists conducted an experiment by creating a statue using concrete and securing it with ropes. When the statue was tilted at a specific angle and pulled from one side, it surprisingly began to move, covering a distance of 50 feet. This experiment confirmed that the ancient inhabitants of Easter Island likely used a similar technique to move the Moai statues from one location to another. However, one final mystery remained. Who were these people who managed to create such an enormous number of massive statues? The research suggests that the creators of these statues were the Polynesians, who arrived on the island around 300 AD, approximately 1,700 years ago. At that time, the island was home to around 17,500 people, who developed the skills and knowledge to create these monumental works. Despite the impressive accomplishments of the Rapa Nui people, many statues remain incomplete, adding yet another layer to the island's enduring mystery. Easter Island, in its earlier days, was not the barren land we see today. Research suggests that the island was once covered with a dense forest of trees, a thriving jungle. Evidence has been found that shows the presence of 25 different types of plants, with palm trees being the most prominent. This dense jungle would have been an essential resource for the island's inhabitants. The big question is, what happened to this forest? Researchers believe that large-scale deforestation took place on the island. It's thought that the Polynesians, who were primarily farmers, cleared the trees to make space for agriculture and to facilitate the movement of the massive Moai statues. As they cut down the palm trees, they likely didn't consider the long-term consequences of deforestation. The island's environment, once lush and fertile, slowly started to deteriorate. The loss of trees disrupted the ecosystem, and as we know, the clearing of jungles often leads to environmental degradation. On Easter Island, the effects were gradual but devastating. Initially, the inhabitants didn't notice the decline, but over time the soil became less fertile, and the island's resources were depleted. This led to severe food and water shortages. Eventually, the people started to turn on each other as internal conflict arose, possibly over dwindling resources. This cycle of deforestation and ecological collapse may have contributed to the eventual downfall of the Rapa Nui civilization, illustrating how a once thriving community was slowly overwhelmed by the consequences of its own actions. Some theories about the downfall of Easter Island's inhabitants suggest that the people may have resorted to cannibalism due to extreme scarcity of food and resources. Some researchers believe that the island's environmental collapse, marked by deforestation and soil degradation, led to intense resource shortages. This could have pushed the island's residents to desperate measures, including cannibalism, as a survival tactic. However, one theory suggests that a virus may have spread among the population, causing people to become violent and engage in cannibalism, though there is no concrete evidence to fully support this claim. Another, more intriguing theory, particularly popular among experts in ancient cultures and magic, is that the people of Easter Island were deeply involved in sorcery. Some suggest that the massive statues on the island were not just artistic creations, but magical tools, believed to represent spirits or deities. According to this view, the statues were used in rituals and were associated with shamanistic practices. One theory even suggests that the inhabitants believed the statues had a spiritual connection with demons or other supernatural forces. According to these beliefs, the islanders may have been highly skilled in magic, and their deep involvement in sorcery could have led to internal strife. These conflicts, fueled by the power struggles related to their mystical beliefs, might have escalated to the point where people fought each other, eventually leading to a devastating collapse in the community. Evidence of violent conflict is suggested by the discovery of human remains, many of which show signs of trauma, such as small puncture wounds that indicate that battles or wars may have taken place. The bones of women, in particular, were often found with marks that suggest they may have been victims of such conflicts. This paints a grim picture of a society that fell apart under the pressure of both internal strife and environmental collapse, ultimately leading to its downfall. While these theories are speculative, they contribute to the mystery surrounding the tragic end of Easter Island's civilization. The combination of ecological, social, and possibly mystical factors creates a complex narrative of a society that was once vibrant but ultimately destroyed by its own choices. The decline in the female population on Easter Island is another critical factor believed to have contributed to the island's collapse. The decrease in the number of women likely led to a disruption in the island's social structure and reproductive capabilities, further weakening the community. Over time, as resources dwindled and internal conflicts worsened, the survivors were forced to abandon the island. Eventually, the population of Easter Island was so depleted that the remaining inhabitants migrated elsewhere, leaving behind a once thriving civilization. Today, Easter Island is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and the monumental Moai statues continue to awe visitors. The sheer scale and complexity of these statues still raise questions. Some people are still amazed at how such large and intricate statues were created and transported by a relatively small and isolated community. What remains unclear is whether these statues were constructed for religious purposes, as symbols of deities, or whether they had another function. Various researchers have different theories about the purpose behind the statues' creation, with some speculating that they were connected to spiritual practices, while others suggest they may have had more practical or even mystical significance. No one can say for certain whether these statues were the work of humans or if there is something more mysterious behind their creation. Some theories even speculate about the involvement of supernatural beings, such as jinn or aliens, though there is no evidence to support these claims. As for what you think, it's a topic that sparks great debate. Do you believe these statues were made by human hands, or do you think something more mysterious might be at play? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. I hope today's video provided you with some interesting new information. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do so. You won't miss the next fascinating video. Until then, goodbye.